And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Vinkat M, who writes, Wrath of Man was awesome. Just awesome. Me and my friends saw it and immediately came back in the nighttime to see it again. The movie made just $8 million opening weekend, and I wanted to know your thoughts on it, if that should be considered a good result or not. What do you think? All right, man. Thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, listen, you guys, if you follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which of course, if you're not, you totally should be. You guys know I put out my instant quick out of the theater reaction to Wrath of Man, new Jason Statham film being directed by Guy Ritchie. Of course, they have worked together before to great effect with things like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, one of my top 20 films of all time, Snatch, as well. So, and I just love Guy Ritchie. And Guy Ritchie has shown he can do other things too. He just did Aladdin, which I thought that was the strangest director choice, but it worked out great. And then one of my favorite films of last year, The Gentleman, which I thought was fantastic. So I went in, this movie was not what I was expecting, but damn, I had a good time with it. I thought this movie was really enjoyable. It was much darker than I thought it would be, but I had a thoroughly good time. It ranked out an A- cinema score. It looks really good, and it made $8 million. $8 million. Now, when we hear about things like Mortal Kombat making $20 million, it's a fair question to ask. Is $8 million a good result for something like Wrath of Man? And I would actually say yes and no. On the yes side, you got to remember, Jason Statham, there was not a lot of hype going into Wrath of Man. This isn't a superhero genre sort of thing. There's no giant sharks in it. There's no giant robots destroying the city. And Jason Statham has made a lot of these smaller scoped, little action films. And so I want to look at and compare to how has Wrath of Man done compared to some of those. So we go back and we look at things like Parker. It's kind of a similar thing, a small, less hype movie that kind of put out. Parker made $7 million in its opening weekend. Homefront, which, by the way, had James Franco. Homefront which a lot of people like, by the way, Homefront. But again, it was a smaller, kind of hyped movie, not revolving around superheroes or giant sharks or whatever. It also opened to $7 million. The Mechanic, which I actually really like. And oh my God, Ben Foster's amazing in that movie. But so The Mechanic came out more of a little bit more of a higher profile, big actioneer kind of thing, made $11.4 million. So what I would say, Rob, when asking the question about, so is $8 million for something like Wrath of Man, when we are still in the tail end of a pandemic, when we still don't have theaters at capacity, when there are still a lot of people a little bit nervous about going back to the theaters, when you see it kind of averaging out with what previous Jason Statham films did that you could kind of categorize in the same vertical, it's actually not a bad result. It's actually not bad. However, the not such positive light about it is the fact that it was a $40 million film.
Right.
Now, actually, let me rephrase that. I've seen anywhere between 35 and $40 million is how much it cost, is what I'm kind of seeing it jumping around as to how much it costs. Now, worldwide, as of right now, it made $8 million in its domestic. Worldwide, it's already made 25.7. So it's already made well over half of its budget in just its first little opening. So is it okay? I would qualify it as this, Rob, and asking, is $8 million a good opening weekend or a bad opening weekend for Wrath of Man? I'm going to say it's okay. I think it fits right into where those other films of his has opened. You still have to keep in mind the pandemic issues that go along with it. It has made well over half of its operating budget, and it's just his first weekend worldwide. So I'm not going to call it a hit. I'm going to say it's an okay opening, and maybe even a little bit better than I expected it to do. But Rob, I'm telling you, I loved this film. I really, really, it's not as good as Lock, Stock, or Snatch or anything like that, but I really thoroughly enjoyed this film. It's very dark. There's a great revenge element to it. Not the film you were expecting to see, and I had a good time with it. Anyway, Rob, you're sitting there now, and you're looking at the box office results come in. You're seeing $8 million for it. How would you evaluate that if you're one of the studio heads there?
Well, again, it would all be based. I'm on Box Office Mojo. They don't have the budget of the film reported, but to me, obviously, John, the success of a movie is always based on, well, how much did it cost and how much did they spend on the marketing of the film. But I think this is probably a pretty solid result. It opened at $25 million worldwide, and people really like this movie. The word of mouth on this film is very good. And across the board, I haven't seen anyone and people have been surprised by just how good it is. That's what I've seen. So I'm sure it might have some legs, especially internationally, because of its action content, and it's the kind of thing it probably is going to play well around the world. So I don't think this film was designed, it's not a $150 million movie that they expect to make $1 billion. And I mean, sure, every studio wants their movies to open bigger. Even if they make $500 million their opening weekend, the studio's like, well, we could have made 6. But so I think somebody will say, well, it opened soft, but they know that we're in this pandemic. So I would say this was a pretty good result. Not a great result, but a pretty good result being what it is and being in the time that it opened. But then again, I could be wrong because it might have cost a lot more money than I thought. But you've seen it. I haven't. I'm dying to see this movie. The Gentleman was one of the last movies I saw before lockdown. I saw it with you. I'm a Guy Ritchie fan, as you are, and this looks like a little change of pace for him. But boy, it certainly looks like, and from what I've heard from you and others, that he knocked it out of the park. So I
think he really, very different kind of Guy Ritchie film. I really enjoyed it. Again, $35 to $40 million is what I'm reading that they spent on it. Then I really don't think they spent much in the marketing. I saw very, very little marketing for this film. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. The question is for you guys. What do you think about Wrath of Man and its opening weekend? Did you have a chance to see the film? What did you think about it? I really enjoyed it a hell of a lot. And I actually think $8 million opening is okay, but maybe you guys think differently. What it is that you guys think, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.